Because if somebody really wakes up and starts doing things that our ancestors did for real, they in trouble. You know, those who are in control, it's all about information. It's all about seeing who knows what. That's why at every conference is at least one agent just there to see what we know, what we don't.
Hold up, Mercy. I don't know if you're cutting out when everybody else is, but you just started cutting out, and you hold up. Can anybody?
So you clear up on my end now.
Okay. Man, oh man. That was a funny place to cut out, huh?
Yeah, but that's that's a thing that you always know is everything is about gathering information against us, because we're such a powerful people once we realize it. And the mushrooms, it activates certain stuff. Every time you take the mushroom, it activates certain DNA inside your body. Back in the day, they said, 90% of your DNA is junk DNA and it doesn't do anything, which is absolutely ridiculous. It's just lying dormant. And taking things like mushrooms, going through these changes and unlocking certain brain chemistry, those old parts of the brain, unlocking certain things, you're going to have people who are, waking up. X-Men has always been talked about by the ancient people, the awakening of the X-Men. Why this is a thing. Why there's the X-Men symbol on the Egyptian walls and stuff like that, because it's I feel like we're on the cusp of activating, and this is the age. It may be 100 years from now, but or it could be tomorrow. Time is 100 years and stuff like that is still in the same era. But I feel like you can call me crazy all you want, but the awakening of the X-Men is happening very soon, and I think mushrooms is one of the ways to activate and wake up some of those X-Men. And you got to think about, I don't know how we got all into this, but you got to think about, they've been working on the Captain America serum. They've been working on all of these cyborg robotic, they've been working on the Iron Man suit. They've been working on genetic engineering, like the Incredible Hulk and all of that. They looking for the Thor, the God genes and all of that type of stuff in certain people. And you got to think about, why are they doing that? Because they know, that they have to be able to combat those who have power. The Hitler and all of them, they've been working on this Captain America's for a long time. So it's only a matter of time before they actually put it out. And if they've been working on it since back then, it ain't no telling what it is now. And as a martial artist, you kind of gotta be in the world of these things, especially once you start dealing with the mushrooms and stuff like this in that area and field, because that's a part of my journeys and a part of what I deal with. Why I liked X-Men so much as a child, because they talking about me. What I'm saying? They talking about the Tamerrian Institute. It's about to say that all of that type of stuff. Whether all of those movies and comic books, and I watch some of the movies and I'd be like, man, are they watching like my journeys? Like this has to be like, this is too close. Which there are watchers to where they take their entheogen and they watch, in the multiverse, and they'll see you doing things. They'll see, and this might not be talked that we talk about it at the conference and stuff like that, but just informational wise, that's the mushroom world. It's a very weird place. It is Doctor Strange. And Baba said we need more Doctor Stranges. Baba was a true sorcerer. That's what the martial arts was about. He wore certain clothes that had certain information in it. He knew everything about everything. Everything he did was a purpose. If he, when he walked a certain way, what eye to look at, to look with, and all of that kind of stuff. It's just information is always being gathered, and we've learned that on our group trip. They send little extraterrestrial alien bots down in the middle of our group trip just to gather information. Well, what are they talking about? What they know? What are they, have they activated this yet? Or, so they always watching and listening, and at every conference is somebody that don't nobody know. You know what I'm saying? It's always somebody watching, and it's all about information. Where are they at yet? Is anybody doing this? And when stuff start getting too real, there's always some sort of assault on something. Even, I think it's a good thing that, psychedelics are being legalized in all of these medical fields, but there's going to be some sort of assault on it in some way. But overall, I feel like, it's a good thing and we will prevail just because, you know, that's what I feel. But yeah, so it's mushroom, it's such a phenomenal world to be in. And growing up as a child, I knew there was something else, and then when I found out about the mushrooms, I'm like, that's what it is. You know what I'm saying? And that's what was rites of passages in every culture and almost every culture in the world. You get to a certain age and you go see all of the deities that was in your village that everybody been talking about. That's what a real rites of passage is. That's what everybody had to go through in villages and stuff like that to know that it's something else. So and that's what a lot of modern folks are lacking. Even over in Africa, there's certain stuff that they don't do anymore, but there's still a lot of places that do, you know.
So, in terms of where the lines blur between being in the space and, you know, just navigating the physical day to day, um, you know, a lot of us come to understand that you know, what's going on here is always being reflective on the other side and vice versa. Whether we're directly engaged in an experience or not. Um, but where do you think the lines will start to blur between having those abilities, um, you know, beyond the veil, while entheogenically activated, and when we're going to see the time that some of these things actually start to, you know, even tap into our meat suits a little bit, if that makes sense, or
Oh,
because if it's a process of evolution, some of what we're experiencing in these places, through the hyperdimensional visions and such, right?
mhm.
um, is there a point where you see that actually coming into this space and having to deal with it, almost in an apocalyptic sort of you know scenario? Because I
I
think
mean,
that is where in some senses the survival element kind of comes into play. And you know then when you look at, well, if there is something we need to be skilled at defending ourselves against, you know, the big player in the water right now is this artificial intelligence. And I see a lot of people who, you know, I think are starting to realize that there may be, um, you know, I think it's up to us to sort of define what that relationship is going to look like with that. And I think a lot of people put that responsibility on, you know, people of higher industries like, you know,
Mhm.
someone like Elon Musk or something like that. But in fact, you know, the work that we do with the entheogens as individuals, you know, any one of us, you know, plays a direct role in the relationship that we are developing with that, and, you know, what is to come. So sorry, I know that was a
No,
blur, but
but I feel like once people's powers truly activate, I feel like that means shit's gonna hit the fan. You know,
mm-hmm.
um, a lot of your powers, if you are an X-Man for real, but a lot of your powers are lying dormant until a certain threat arrives. You know, so that what is something's going to force um powers out of you. You know what I'm saying? Uh, like I said, they've been working on so much stuff, and you know, just like example, real quick, like I'm an old being. I even chose certain family members to have certain DNA and all of that type of stuff. Throughout my mushroom use, I'd learned, you know, all the way back who was related to who into me. So I have a lot of stuff. So imagine an extraterrestrial, you know, actually bleeding over into this dimension, stepping in front of me. Then my DNA and stuff would turn on to be able to deal with that. You know what I'm saying? So the threat has to be there. Like Bobby used to always bring up the example of Gandalf the Grey when Gandalf had to fight the Balrog, and when, you know, at first, you know, when he was fighting all of the orcs, he was fighting with a sword, you know, hitting them with a staff. Then all of a sudden they heard doom, 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 and he's like, you know, swords are no longer used here. Run, you know what I'm saying? And then at one point, you know, the Balrog was coming, and he put his staff down and said, "You shall not pass." And you know, a lot of people were saying, "Well, how come he didn't do that? You know, at the beginning, how come he, you know, they was running all that?" Because he never dealt with anything as powerful as the Balrog before, and it invoked certain powers, and had to battle that to become something greater. The evolution is in the battle between him and the Balrog. I mean, after he said, "You shall not pass," and went and fought the Balrog and became victorious, that's when he became Gandalf the White and became a much more powerful sorcerer. Doctor Strange didn't become as powerful as he was until he fought Dormammu. You know, he had to fight Dormammu and die a million times before he could defeat Dormammu and become a much more powerful being. And in this reality, a certain threat has to arrive, whether it's AI, whether it's, you know, some sort of CRISPR genetic, you know, half human, half gorilla leopard, um, that they, you know, no, because they, you know, they've been working on
Oh
that kind
yeah.
of. I say they, you know, injecting people with wolf DNA to where you can run for miles and miles and miles and not get tired. Inject you with, make sure you got gorilla DNA so you super strong, cheetah DNA so you super fast, give you the super soldier serum, put you in the Iron Man suit and all of that kind of stuff. But once that person steps in front of you, you know, that's when I feel like, you know, I may be wrong, but you know, the threat has to be there. You know, you have to be under a great stress. And that's when your, you know, your survival taps in and all of that type of stuff. Because if you look at, you know, a lot of the movies and stories and stuff are, you know, somewhat accurate on, even if you look at X-Men, the Days of Future Past, they was going through hell even though they had superpowers. You know, it has to be a certain energy field. Okay, something has changed because reality changes all the time. You look, I don't know what reality we in right now because Mike Tyson is fighting Jake Paul. So reality is always shifting to where, you know, you don't know what is what. So when, okay, when, you know, let's say, because I don't really know about the AI being, you know, particularly evil, but if it is, and we have to battle it, you know, what are we gonna do? You know, because we can't do nothing as a regular person. You know, that's when your old things start to activate and be able to deal with this stuff. You know, at a certain point, everything's gonna be ran by AI. Every car, you're gonna have to be Magneto to do anything because if you in a car and they cut your car off and just want to take you somewhere or want to kill you in the car, how are you gonna get out of that situation? You know, and if you look at any X-Men movie or look at the series Heroes when people got powers, you know, there's always a great stress that activates people's powers. You know, if you looked at speaking of Magneto, if you looked at when they took him from his mother, that's when he bent the fence. And then they brought him again. They was like, you know, move that metal cup. He like, I can't do it. They brought his mother in, shot his mother in the head. He was able to make the whole building shake. You know, if you watched Heroes, the guy who could fly, um, he was about to get in a bad car accident and would have been killed. But as soon as the car came, you know, he was in the sky. So when the threat arrives, it's going to activate certain people's DNA to be able to deal with whatever is going on, whatever is, you know, there. Because, you know, how are you going to fight AI? How are you going to fight um, billionaires who've been working on highly sophisticated technological weaponry and super soldiers and stuff like that? You know,
Well,
take
right. The
off.
question is, how are you? But life being a great story, it would seem odd for there not to be those who can and should. And,
Mhm.
you know, it's like people, you know, the, you
You know, if you looked at speaking of Magneto, if you looked at when they took him from his mother, that's when he bent the fence. And then they brought him again. They was like, you know, move that metal cup. He like, I can't do it. They brought his mother in, shot his mother in the head. He was able to make the whole building shake. You know, if you watched Heroes, the guy who could fly, um, he was about to get in a bad car accident and would have been killed. But as soon as the car came, you know, he was in the sky. So when the threat arrives, it's going to activate certain people's DNA to be able to deal with whatever is going on, whatever is, you know, there. Because, you know, how are you going to fight AI? How are you going to fight um, billionaires who've been working on highly sophisticated technological weaponry and super soldiers and stuff like that? You know,
saying that it will be activated by threat is the reason why, you know, perhaps we're not walking around right now doing certain things, right?
oh no, oh
And
no, oh no. If you
oh,
could, that's one of the reasons I feel like people, you know, people don't have powers because if they could, as soon as somebody piss you off driving, you gonna lift a car up and throw it. You know, you gonna, you know, this, you know, that was, you know, that actually was the case in certain true stories about when people started becoming, you know, more than human. You know, they destroyed themselves. Everything get destroyed because they were too powerful. You know, people destroy things. So, you know, one thing about Spider-Man is great power does come great responsibility because if, you know, regardless on how centered I am, if I was Magneto, you know, and if I lose my shit, you know, I could destroy everything, you know. So it's, you know, it's a good thing, you know, a threat. It'd be good to make sure it's a threat there, so you ain't just doing it just because you can. You know, if you had the ability to do Darth Vader, just something simple and do the Force choke, you'll be choking the shit out of people all the time. You know, and you know all of that type. That's why it's so hard to get. You know, the ability to do the Darth Vader choke, it can be done, but you know, are you gonna go through all of the stuff that it takes to do that? You know,
mhm.
that type of stuff. It takes extreme discipline. You can't care about other things. You can't have no job. You have to be taking mushrooms in the dark, working energy for decades, and not care about how you look, not care about anything but that kind of stuff. You know, so yeah, you definitely, you know, you definitely don't just give powers to people. And that's, even your higher self knows that. Let it be a threat before, because if not, somebody piss you off on the road, you do that and throw somebody's car off a bridge, somebody civilized enough to have power. That's why those who really do have power have to be as great as they are and as disciplined as they are, and it don't it's not given to everybody. Like, and believe it or not, in Africa, there's a lot of magical sorcery that goes on, but you have to go through a lot to get that kind of stuff. It's not something you give to people, because if you just give it to people, people will be, tearing shit up. You don't give to people the sacred words that can destroy a whole person's whole home, because people's homes will be getting destroyed. They watch people. Oh, no, you get mad too easy. Oh, you may be a great person, but you have no control over, certain emotions. And being a true, Jedi and stuff like that, you try to master those things. And in these lifetimes, it's, almost damn near impossible, because I'm not, I'm usually centered, but I'm not nowhere near perfect, and, it's just, one of those things that, you know, and that's why, even I have abilities and things, but they happen in the midst of, threats, I've, but I don't even know if I want to say this, but I ain't gonna tell the whole story, but there was times where I turned invisible. Now I can't do it at will, but when it's a life-threatening situation, and you just know it, you just are able to do it. It happens. You know what I'm saying? I could probably tell some of Baba's stories, because he ain't, don't matter because he ain't here at the moment, But he been in situations where somebody literally put a gun to his head and pulled the trigger, and all of a sudden he in the car driving home. Don't know how he got in the car, don't know how he was driving. It just wasn't his time to go. But most of the time he just take guns from people. All of that movie stuff when people take guns from people, take knives. Baba did that like it was nothing all the time. You know, that's one of the things that, was so great about him. He really did the things that, man, you can't do that. Matter of fact, not just my father's students used to do unbelievable shit to where it was like, man, people can't do that. What are you talking about? That's what what's his name did, and he did it too. You like in this, and you hear these stories and they get verified because back in I know a lot of the folks from my father's neighborhood. They like, oh yeah, he did this. You be telling the story. I was there. It was the most amazing thing I ever seen. You know what I'm saying? So it was just a different energy my father had and these people had. And like I said, I know I turned invisible because it was no reason whatsoever he shouldn't have seen me. And if it wouldn't have been a good situation for me if I would have got seen. So there's certain times where I've seen Baba push people without touching them willingly. Like sometimes these things just happen because of energy. It's not your time to get hurt. So somebody may be swinging a chair and it veer off. But I've seen Baba and push people. You know what I'm saying? With my own eyes, no bullshit, no man. He lied. No, I've seen him do it, and it was other people who witnessed it. So it's not just I'm saying it. But all that kind of stuff just comes out of being a warrior and having a certain particular energy with you. If you and if you're a righteous being, those type of things happen for you when it's supposed to happen. You just happen not to get, shot at that time. Something happened to where, you think you're just falling, but if you really a righteous person and got family on the other side, they'll make you fall, and then the bullet go through that way. Or your uncle who passed away that you was really close with, just happened to hit you in the back, and you go bullet fly past. Those are the type of things that dealing with the ancestors and taking mushrooms and going to speak with these people, you know. And that's one thing too. The ancestors, they waiting on folks to, you know,
To answer the phone or to pick up the
and
phone.
and I feel like they be betting, like, because I got to a place once and they was like, how long we've been waiting for somebody to get over here. It's like it was like, like, dang, he actually got over here. You know what I'm saying? And that it was like that. It's like that T'Challa feeling. You wake up like, man, they all over here. And then it'd be like, I told him it was gonna be you. It's good. You were gonna be the one to get over here. And but it's so vast and complex on realities and dimensions, and it's just like I said, I'm just getting started. I remember I've been taking mushrooms for a very long time. I was on a group trip with Baba. I think I've probably been taking mushrooms for at least about 10 years at that moment, because he was seeing all sorts of shit and talking about this. I'm like, damn, how come I ain't experiencing that? And he looked at me and said, because you're just getting started. And that's what a lot of people don't realize and understand, that they're just getting started. Because a lot of people start taking mushrooms.
I lost you there for a second.
Don't get me wrong, because if you have some experience with it, you should be giving some people some information and somewhat of a guide if they need a sitter and stuff like that. But we all in this thing together. We all learning. Every now and then, it's rare. It's usually from somebody I'm close with, but they'll go somewhere and get.
Uh-oh. You lost him here. There we go.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's okay.
But shoot. But this reality and everything is so complex. Honestly, ain't nobody really got. If you into mushrooms, we all in the same boat. You know what I'm saying? It's just, I feel like more people need to go in deep. And once that happens, that will shift reality into our favor. Because like I said, it is not medicine. It's what's going to push us into the next phase of human, or outside of human, that pushes us out of human and becoming something more. And that's what it's about. Not being the same, getting to a point where you don't need to heal, when you don't need that. Because that's where I'm at, speaking into existence. That's why when I say, I don't need, the healing aspect of it, it's never any shade. It's just I speak that because that's what needs to be said. I'm going in it to become something greater, so I can encourage other people to become something greater. We all have to push past the envelope. Humans have been doing the same thing since forever. We finally got the ability to grow mushrooms and take them at a dosage that we ain't been able to take in a very long time. Past thousands of hundreds or whatever many years, you had to get them in nature. You could take a lot from that way, but they started getting scarcer and scarce. Now we can grow them in abundance in your closet. So it's such a easy thing to do, but still difficult in itself as far as the challenging trips are concerned, because we can grow mushrooms anywhere, and it's so it's not hard to grow mushrooms at all. And
Is there a certain level of like expectation that's had right now that those who are on this path need to get to a certain point themselves before a deeper level of, I guess, converged work can take place? Because I think that that's something that, that's something that has laid on my mind for a long time, is when will we start to see ourselves get together and really take this thing to the next level in some ways. And I think that's starting to occur.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but it's certainly not going to occur in any of the medical senses. And it's sad to see, you know, people stuck in their homes, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and doing these things. And then, you know, we've got entire subreddits full of trip reports, but it's just like when, you know, obviously the having a center for exploration that is more about more than just healing, you know, isn't something that just exists right out there on the corner of every street, and probably won't. But I
Mm-hmm.
mean, what does that look like to you?
I mean, honestly, I'm not really speaking to everybody. I'm speaking to particular folks who, you know, who are warriors, you know, and that's why, you know, I'm speaking to the people who don't get mad when I speak about healing. I'm speaking to the person that when I say something like, you know what, you know, maybe I should, you know, go deeper and go to, you know, maybe I should do that because I honestly, I can speak about this till I'm black and blue, and I know the majority of people are not going to do what I'm talking about. You know, it's just for me, this is my avenue in it. This is what I do. So I'm speaking to somebody who this resonates with. You know, I'm speaking to, you know, a few people. You know, everybody's not going to, you know, take more than 3.5 or 5 gram trip, you know, and stuff like that. And, you know, and that might be good for them. And they might have some serious activation and stuff like that, but it's not like what I'm talking about because to do what I'm doing is very difficult. Very, very difficult. It's, you know, Bob was giving a lecture and he said, you know, he said, everybody looking for it to be fun. Everybody looking for, he's like, taking 40 grams of mushrooms ain't fun. You know, that's for somebody that's really like, okay, I don't give a fuck. I'm about to go in and I'm about to go in as deep as I can go, boldly go where nobody has gone before, you know, and I think that's for the few courageous because I still get nervous and a little scared, but your courage has to be bigger than your fears. You know, I still get nervous, like, oh shit, I'm touched. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what I'm going to see. I don't know what I'm going to come across, you know, because, you know, 20 grams is different than 10 grams. 30 is way different than 30. 30 is different than 20. And I've, you know, like I said, I plan on doing 40 before I'm 40, which is a couple years. But I'm not about to just jump into 40 grams like, all right, y'all, I'm about to do this. No, this is gonna be, you know, something that you have to build yourself up to. And there's people who, you know, taking 40 more than that and stuff like that. And, you know, which is, you know, it's something about you know, it's like I see certain people that be like, yeah, I did 50 grams. And I look at them and it's like, you know, I could kind of see that even if they did take that much, it's something not there, you know, because they not speaking the same language of a person who took 50 grams. They not, the aura is not there in the way that they said it. Oh yeah, I did 50 grams. You don't say you did 50 grams like that if you did 50 grams, you
Well,
know.
and often if you're not ready, you just black out, right? I mean, it doesn't even.
Yeah, that happens a lot. You know, that happens where people take a lot of mushrooms and they wake up like I don't know what happened. But you know, that's why it's a slow build up. You know, sometimes you wasn't ready to see anything. You know, sometimes you just tripping balls, and sometimes certain people aren't gonna see anything ever. You know, some people gonna black out. Some people don't have certain DNA to gain access to certain places. You know, so when you get to those realms, you have to be a particular key and code to get into these realms. So certain people just don't have that. Because I listen to people who really have eaten probably more mushrooms than me. But like I ain't seen none of that stuff. I'm like, because you ain't got the same lineage that I have. You don't get access to a sacred jaguar temple in certain realms if you're not a jaguar person. Same thing with anything, so you don't, if you're not that, you don't get in there. Well, I didn't see that. No, you don't. You're not a falcon head, so why would you, get into the falcon temple? So there's a lot of people who just don't have access to certain stuff, and no shade to them, they just ain't got access, and maybe they just haven't found their guild yet, because a lot of these things take a long time. Like I said, I've been taking mushrooms for 20 years and ain't, and I'm just now getting up into the 30-40 gram range, you know what I'm saying? So it takes a while. That's why people be like, I take 30. I tell people I take 30 grams. They like, man, I ain't gonna do. I'm like, no, you don't jump in at 30. It's all a slow build up. Because I don't know how many times I've taken mushrooms, more times than I can count. But sometimes I go up, sometimes I dial back, sometimes I dial way back, sometimes I go back to a medium dose, and sometimes I take a low dose and get my ass kicked higher than a high dose, and it's always, going in at different realms. And I've learned, me personally, whatever I take at that moment was what I was supposed to take to get to a certain place at that particular time. So, if I take a, now I've never just blacked out and didn't get anything, but there's certain things that I didn't remember until later and stuff like that. And, take a really high dose, and then later on you'd be like, oh yeah, holy, it's like something that in this reality has to mirror something that happened. And you're like, oh shit. You know what I'm saying? And it kind of activates some remembrance. There's certain parts that I don't remember. And sometimes time is just unbelievable. So you may feel like you're going for a very long time. So no, you don't remember everything on your trip because it's, time don't exist over there. And that's when, I found out, how to, deal with time, still dealing with time. That's what these lives are about. Time, time ain't real, but going into it, you have to learn how to deal with it. You have to learn how to manipulate it. You have to learn how to fold it. You have to learn how to unfold it. And that's, I'm dealing a lot with time at the moment. But that's neither, not really talked about that much, but, you just, I forgot what I was talking about, but it's such a vast, because mushrooms are so, it almost saddens me because I want to tell people the stuff, like when I've the beautiful, like the places that I have been that are beautiful that you have to push to. I almost get emotional because I know you're not gonna see it. When I got there, I'm like, damn. I said, people are never gonna see this, and it was heartbreaking. Like, damn, ain't nobody gonna get here. I'm like, if they only knew, how great it is to get here. But the folks who can get there are not going to do what it takes to get there. They might have to, transition first or something like that.
Well, it's dose dependent, it's lineage dependent, but what else is it dependent on?
It's tenacity dependent on,
You mentioned, discipline
yeah,
as well earlier in regards to like warrior trial type things, but I also understand what you're saying in terms of just like, I mean, that gave me an imagery of, some beautiful multi-dimensional
yeah, no, this,
hyperspace landscape of some sort, to gaze on, and I totally get what you mean. It's like,
and you got to, you got to realize, it's all a personal journey. Certain people are going to get to certain places, and certain people just, and it's, certain people are, it goes into that whole weird thing of, being in multiple places at the same time. Certain folks are already there waiting for themselves to get there. I remember my mother, she took a mushroom trip, and it was a real tough trip for her. And she said she got to this place and it was so beautiful. And she was like, I saw this place with these Greek columns. And I was like, why look Greek columns? Then, Baba was like, where do you think the Greeks got it from? She's like, oh yeah. But it was this beautiful place. It was a beautiful place, and it just was, oh my God, it was so many temples and just, like it wasn't even really stone. It was like this crystal light columns and beautiful everything. And she was like, she mentioned me. She like, man, I wish Ramessu could see this. And she said she turned around and I was just standing there, like it was my place. So we have that being in multiple places, separate realities, like the whole Carlos Castaneda uh, thing. So you're different places, but the journey of going to different places, then going to see yourself, the whole variant thing with like like Loki and Kang and all of that. That's all my shit in mushroom trips. Different variants and Kang the Conqueror and all of that kind of stuff. But say you could call me crazy and one of the mushroom folks, but I promise you, Kang the Conqueror is a depiction of me in the multiverse. Speaking of time and stuff like that, Kang the Conqueror, even one of his variants' name is Ramatut. So there was a time where I was in Kemet. You know, there was a time where I'm here, and there's time when you're there. There's times when you're there, and there's different variants, and you're all throughout these multiverse of all over the place. But that to truly understand that kind of stuff is going deep in the mushroom land. You know, uh, and it was another thing that they made. King the Conqueror a black dude because I'm black, but yes. So you even throughout the Marvel universe, it's all based off of entheogens. All of those type of things. Somebody I know a lot of people thought they just thought some of them folks up, but some of them they had to go and you know take some acid and all of that and LSD and go see some of them folks. Yeah. But say shoot, King the Conqueror was, you know, it's several. He was all over the place. He's impossible to beat. If you kill one, there's still more. But I don't know how I just got into that, but it's that's just the type of stuff that I deal with on mushrooms and be going on in my head. So it's a wonderful thing. Even I ain't go keep getting too much of the Marvel superhero stuff, but all of that stuff is based off of something, whether it be Star Wars, whether it be shoot, Star Wars is written all over the Egyptian walls. They just got those certain temples that got lightsabers and stuff in it. They just closed them off to the general public. And even the storyline as far as Darth Vader and Luke and all of that, Darth, Dark Lord. Darth means Dark Lord. Osiris is the Lord of Darkness, and the Tamerrian Institute is Per Ansar, the house of Ansar, Osiris, which is the house of darkness. And all of the Dark Lords and all of that type of stuff all tie in together. The Jed column, the Jedi, Jedi, it's pronounced Jedi. They just said Jedi. All of that is in it. As far as Osiris's brother Set, the Sith. It's all mushroom and African stories that they just took and said, this is our, they made it seem like they made it up, but this is all of our stuff. And once you take mushrooms and start seeing all of that stuff, you flabbergasted that they had the audacity to just like, oh, they tried to make it seem like they made this up.
Well,
So,
I mean, as important as it is to, house this within, um, spaces that are pursuing, traditional third dimensional education into things, what this conversation seems like is it more seems as though what will look to change over the next coming years is, you know, perhaps not as much what we think of in terms of how we measure growth, even with the with events. You know, it might not be the crowd growing as much, but what will change is what is being done, and what the events become capable of, and what they're for is will evolve, because, you know, the information is here, and it seems as though, you know, now we just have to take things to the next steps. You know, people are people are finding their way here, and um, you know, I think that the team has assembled, and now it's just time to, you know, see where things keep going. Because how do you, you know, seeing dealing with time in such a not linear way, how do you um idealize like processing just change in general, you know, and how change functions, if that makes sense?
I mean, I've been it's that's hard to answer because change has
Because
all.
people relate presence to stillness, you know, and it's
I
like,
mean, it kind of is. You got to create everything out of nothing because it's it's I've been making change since forever because there's nothing else going on. All of this is, you know, it's all of this is hidden even in our higher realms and higher selves because nobody knows what really is. Nobody knows what God is for real. If you look at any civilization that was even beyond us in understanding everything, they don't know what God is. It's always the name of God is always something that's hidden, so we don't know. But at the end of the day, if we share that consciousness, it's a, it's nothing going on. Why, because I used to have these thoughts as a child. Why is there anything? So everything just happened out of nothing. So it was just nothing here. So if
so what
you're,
was the point to begin with?
that's the big question.
Hmm.
Nobody knows, but I feel like we have to create all of these things so we're not just sitting still doing nothing in time that don't exist. So we have to create, we have to build, we have to do these realities, or we might be in a small reality that once we get out of this dimension, we might know what things are and past that. We could be a reality from a super beings science project and, uh, just see how far it goes. And, once it gets whatever scratched out, it's happen again, or, because we're embedded in so many different simulations of reality, it is unimaginable. More than we can count, more than we so enclosed in, it doesn't matter. But I feel like we so enclosed in because there's nothing but nothing. So we have to create. We have to create each other. We have to create, so we ain't alone, so we have to experience, let's create each other so we're not alone, so we can experience other things, other beings, you know. Let me create something to where it can create itself out of nothing and always exist. And those are the type of conversations that uh, mushrooms start to create, and then those who are taking mushrooms kind of can understand um, what I'm talking about, because usually people don't, I'm usually going over people's heads, and people don't really get what I'm talking about. Like, it's psychedelic folks, just like an event I was at a couple months ago. It was me, and two other people that are well known in the psychedelic community. And the psychedelic folks they were spitting, they were just on fire. But I kind of looked at the crowd. I'm like, this is going over all of their heads.
They're not
You
even
know,
registering.
I'm like, I'm like, they don't even know what they getting. But you know, I feel like these type of things spark at least one person in the crowd to be like, you know, even if they don't hear something in the back of their mind, and they, in the older parts of the brain, certain parts of their DNA hear it and activate that one person. But these conversations to talk about creating out of nothing, to experience other things, because it's all, you know, because we all sitting alone in the dark. It's nothing out there. That's what it's all about. Whatever it is, good and bad, let's experience good and bad, because what else is there to experience? You know, it's nothing out there. Let's create everything, and let's keep creating so we can have something to do alone with other people. You know, we all, you know, if you're a real person, you're all connected. And most people are not real people. They just, you know, programs in the matrix. So I ain't worried about them. But if you're a real person, you come from the source, and the source, don't nobody know what that is. So by not knowing what it is, and it comes from nothing, we have to figure out things to not be bored. You know, you know, this lifetime is just to experience this lifetime. You know, it's think it's bad, even if you had a bad life. Let me go experience a bad life, because being all powerful, all knowing can become boring throughout eternity. Let me go see what it's like to not know for a minute. Let me see what it's like to remember. Let me see what it's like to find certain enlightened people that I have a connection with, that we connected from the beginning. Let me, you know, it's a journey. Let me see what it's like to need money. Let me see what it's like to forget. Let me see what it's not like to be not all knowing. And I feel like that's what it is. Now, I could be wrong, but from my understanding and dealing with mushrooms, you know, this life ain't shit compared to what you are. This is a second. This is a blink in eternity. This, you know, 80 years. Say you live to be 80 years old. That's nothing in all in in the all. You know, and it's just a, you know, and it's just a learning thing. It's a fascinating thing to, you know, come here and have to take mushrooms to remember certain shit. All of that. That's a part of the journey, and that's why I get you know, irritated at people. I get nauseous when I take mushrooms. Man, take the mushrooms and shut up, and get you some figure out, remember who you are and why you here and why you doing certain things and all of that kind of stuff. You know, because like I said, a lot of that stuff is silly to me, because there's times where I've taken mushrooms and been sick as hell, but it was always worth it, because it may be that one thing I needed to know about myself, or about who's coming, or about who's here, that I needed to know. And once I'm past it, that information is worth more than anything, worth more than money, worth more than anything. You know, so it's just it's one of them things that, you know, those who know, you know, and once you keep taking those mushrooms, it gives you a, it's like it takes the veil off of certain things. I literally can see who's been to the places, you know, who's been to those places and who hasn't. I can see who's lying about stuff, or at least embellishing on certain things. I could tell how they speak about certain stuff. You know, there's certain things that certain people look for. And if you're not speaking the right language, it shows that you haven't been doing certain work, you know, and it's only a few people that have. And, you know, and it's so great when people actually do get to certain places, because then you can speak about certain things. It's a discipline within itself to not tell somebody something that you know about them that's great. Like say I met you and I take a trip and I could see certain things about you, know who you are out there, know what your name is, know your abilities, know all of this stuff, and not tell you. You know, that's a discipline in itself. You know, or know something that they're gonna have to find out themselves. It's people have to find stuff out themselves, or if not, it's just somebody telling you. And that the journey of finding things out yourself. Because I remember I asked Baba something, I don't even remember, but I was like, how come you ain't tell me? He was like, um, he was like, you gotta figure it out yourself. If you don't figure it out, it's just me telling you. So that's what the mushrooms is. It's a thing that you go and uh learn for yourself. Self hold on one second.
You're good.
Self self journey, self explanatory, self everything. I say my daughter, for some reason, if she's watching something on my phone and it's not the show she wants to watch, she decides to throw my phone.
It's the phone's fault. Yeah.
But I say that definitely, and it's messed up too, because I don't know if you can see right at the camera is where it cracked at.
Oh man. Yeah, it had to be, right?
And so I can't take a selfie, go live, or nothing. But the other side of the camera's cool. But yeah, I mean, and it's such a it's such a beautiful thing to, if you're trying to conceive, if you want children, stuff like that, you can go see your child before your child is born, to give them the correct name, to see who it is, to give them the particular energy of the name they're supposed to carry in this lifetime. You know, about to say, why did Baba name me Ramessu? He didn't name me Ramessu. He took a mushroom trip to go find me and ask me who I was, and I told him who I was. And that's one thing about, you have a certain lineage of particular skill set. You go get the people that do that. You don't just want anybody jumping through. Usually you connect it to whoever comes through, but you want to go get particular people for particular things. Those are the type of things that I want people to understand that mushrooms do. It's you can heal with it. Yes, you can get off addiction. I know one of my brothers literally cured somebody who was addicted to crack cocaine for decades, which is absolutely phenomenal and just incredible. But it's so much. You can do other things. You can go see your child before your child is born. I go see who are you. Matter of fact, see them and know who they are, and have a conversation with them before they get here. Have a conversation on why they're coming. You know, those are the type of things that our ancestors did. They went to go get people. If you're a family of blacksmith, I'm gonna go get the old blacksmith man who really know how to do, really do this shit. The master blacksmith, I'm going to go get him to carry this lineage on. If you a warrior family, I'm going to go get a particular warrior for this family. I'm going to go get a specific being.
And this translates into you then finding that person and bringing them into your life in some form or another within this dimension.
Absolutely. That I came here to help Baba, on his mission. When he's gone, I carry the torch. That's why, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Growing up as a kid, talking to, immature girls, and they're like, "Oh, you just doing martial arts because your father do martial arts." I'm like, no, it resonates with everything I am. I'm doing it. That's why I came. Then I found out on mushrooms. I'm like, that's why I came to this family, because this is what I already do. I'm a martial artist or a warrior before I got here. That's why I'm in a warrior family, even to this day in modern times. Because if you're that in every lifetime. Of course, we not fighting with swords like that and stuff anymore and all of that, but it's still a different phase. And in certain realities, you do fight with swords and all of that. So, but those are the type of things that the ancestors used to do. That's things you can do now. All that stuff ain't over. People think that that's all ancient times. This is how the ancients did it. And like I said, Baba had to go through stuff to be able to tell people this type of stuff because this is supposed to be a secret. You ain't supposed to tell people the stuff that I'm telling you. They supposed to think that, Jesus is everything, and don't tell them nothing about no mushrooms. They ain't supposed to know that. That's for the secrets of certain guilds. Don't tell them about taking no mushrooms for real. Let them think that it's just a thing you do in college at a festival. Don't tell them about this type of stuff. You know, um, that's a that's a that's a that's a part of Baba said, "No, what? It's time. It's time for it's time for everybody to know. Not literally everybody, but for those who need to know to know. Let me put this in. You know, let me speak at these conferences and at these places to spark, because he was never looking for everybody to wake up or anything like that. He was looking for particular people.
Well, right, and hopefully in that whole crowd of folks that you were like, oh, it's just, but there were probably one or two or three that were out there, little ants that, maybe heard it.
I remember Darren was at he said he used to be, the speaking of, how, go to these conferences and it's nothing but these, white college professors and stuff like that. Bob would be the only black person speaking, and he'd be the only person in the audience of color. And it was just like one of them things that he was the only one who really took in what Baba was saying. And you can see Darren now, he's, Baba told him that, it's time for you to, speak about this stuff and do all of this type of stuff. And you see him now, that's just what he do. So it may have been that one spark and, let me go to London or whatever part where they were at and, put a spark into Darren. And now Darren's doing his thing, spreading spores. It may be that one person, but that one person may wake up a few others. You know what I'm saying? So he was never looking at the quantity, he was looking for the quality of certain people. He was, same thing with, the martial arts, because, a lot of people know Baba as the mushroom man, but he's the mushroom man because of martial arts. He's a martial artist first. That's why he does mushrooms. And when he was looking for certain martial artists, it wasn't to have a huge class of 150 people. It was certain people he was looking for. When we first, because we kind of all started taking mushrooms as a group, as like around a certain time, like the crew of the couple of us, we started taking mushrooms around the same time, and it was like that was the time to wake the others. You know what I'm saying? Because he took mushrooms back in the day and gave them to a certain few people in our school, but it wasn't like it is now. And we were like the mushroom crew, and we were kind of like the ones who woke up and kind of understand the mushroom world a little bit more than the older generation, because he dealt with mushrooms. Baba been dealing with mushrooms for a very long time, but he didn't give it to everybody in the school. So there's only a few people in our school in the older generation who kind of dealt with the mushrooms like that. So once we kind of woke up, that's when it was time to wake everybody up, because Baba been taking mushrooms for probably almost 40 years before he started talking about them and lecturing about them publicly. And after he started lecturing and talking about them publicly, you start seeing, mainly more after he transitioned, but in the midst of him coming up, you start seeing a bunch of other people talking about it. And it's like, folks are starting to really, know about this. And everybody who I meet who were into mushrooms were inspired by my father. And if they weren't, they were inspired by somebody who was inspired by my father. Every time I go meet some urban folks who take mushrooms kind of serious, or know that it's just not a party drug and all of that kind of stuff, they fall out when they find out who my father is. Like, oh man, I watch all this stuff, man. I was trying to meet him, blah 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 blah. So, it was definitely time for him to start speaking about it. And everybody I meet at these conferences, say Baba changed their life, or I never looked at mushrooms because I did it once when I was in college. But once I started looking at your father's stuff, I started taking it serious, and I it changed my life. I literally, had this 30-year trauma, and now I'm going off, and I wasn't able to really function. Now I can do all of this type of stuff in my life. So I get them type of stories all the time, and that's why I do say if you need some healing, make sure you take some mushrooms. But once again, you can do any and everything with them. It's endless. It's endless, and that's the whole point and purpose of being in that space. It's so weird, but in a good way. And once you start being comfortable and are familiar with the weird, you're really able to navigate and understand certain things at a certain level. Because then, once you start going up, you get thrown for a loop. Bobby used to talk about that too. Every time he think he got a handle on it, show him something else. Every time he defeat some sort of being or defeat a bunch of army or something, he develops a power, but all of a sudden something else comes stepping out the dark. He usually defeated, but it ain't something that it ain't an easy task.
Well, and I mean, it's totally understandable. Saying this is certainly not a fun thing to do, but with there almost seeming like there will always be something else to pop out of the dark, do you have to form a little bit of a comedic relationship with it in that sense? And is that where the dance comes from? Because, it's not going to stop, and that's how it is, but this is what we do, and
I mean, those type of questions are hard to answer because it's like in certain aspects, yes, certain aspects, no. That's where yes and no at the same time, because sometimes that is where the dance come from. These dances are so powerful, and your body, there's certain power. What's the word I'm looking for? There's certain power movements that echo through dimensions, and there's certain power stances, to where it's not like a you get into the realms and it's not no, which it is sometimes, because trust me, I've been over there and had to punch stuff and kick it and fight like that all the time. But certain things, is that's when you start doing your power poses, doing stuff like that, and that projects off of energy and a force that destroys everything type of situation. The dances are like sometimes all those movements in a battle. It's like a movement. It's a energy it's an energy attack. You know, sometimes the dancing is just a dance. Sometimes the dancing, there's so many different levels to everything. You know, but that's you learn all of those type of things on mushrooms, so we can talk about it till we black and blue, but till you get out there and start doing an ancient dance that is particular to you, you know personally to you, that goes to your line, or that you made in the beginning, or that you can make right now that folks in the past get, because talking about time again, the past is pulled from the future. I remember we were on a group trip, and it was the warrior trip. It was just Tamerrian Institute, all of us, we on a group trip, and all of us, it wasn't a high dose so we can get up and just move and do stuff, and I was just out there doing all sorts of martial arts, my body just moving on its own. It's because it's in you, and everybody up just doing stuff, and it was just all of us just looking sweet, like damn, this shit's sweet, and everybody's just up doing stuff, and that's when Baba started explaining how the past is pulled from the future. He said because in ancient times there were some masters over in, there's some Asian masters, all of these type of masters, and certain masters who took their entheogens and looked into the future and was watching us, and that's where they got some of their stuff from. They learned from the gods how to do some of the things that they do. So a lot of that martial stuff that you see, they got from us a couple years ago on mushrooms at a camp. So they see certain, like you can see stuff, you can do stuff now that affects the past. If you do something now that you think is old because they were taking mushrooms back then looking at you. You know what I'm saying? So, that's why I say reality is changing, because you affect the past. And what in reality codes are being shifted all the time. There's a reality where, oh yeah, no, I know where I was at. There's a reality where certain things didn't happen. There's so many different realities and stuff like that. There's a reality where Baba is still, walking around teaching and stuff like that. But in this reality, I had to take the reins at this point, and that goes into the whole, you know, different variants and, all of that kind of stuff.
Do you form conscious relationships with parallel parallel versions of yourselves that exist, and how do you manage those relationships? Do those relationships, the same way that you said that you can do things that will affect the past, how are those versions of yourself and what they're doing affect this version of you right now in the reverse sense?
I mean, those things happen, and you have to, you know, it. A lot of the things
But
happen.
most people wouldn't even have the lens to be able to see into it to begin with.
Most of it happens unconsciously. You there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, most of it happens unconsciously. When realities bleed over into each other, or when certain things happen, or you share a consciousness of your other self. A lot of the times you don't realize it. Unless you have, unless you're kind of in those realms, and you don't. And that's one thing too. You kind of don't want to be in them realms all the time. That's why it's kind of good to be able to take mushrooms to do it, because if you're that open and that sensitive to those spiritual things, you kind of start losing touch with this reality. A lot of, I know a couple people like that, and you don't want to be, talking about something that's in a completely different reality in this one to people here, and they not having no clue what you're talking about. It's like being on mushrooms, and I'm trying to tell you something going on in mushroom land, and you looking at me like I'm not there with you, brother. We're gonna have to talk about it when you come down. But
But how do we make those things still matter then? Because they do.
I mean, you develop a relationship by going on the mushroom journeys. You have to develop a relationship with the mushroom, and develop a relationship of being in those ultra states of consciousness. And you have to kind of go not too frequently, but frequently, to understand that, sometimes I train myself to where if I'm tripping balls, to kind of be able to function in regular everyday reality, because I always, what sometimes I'm tripping balls, I'm like, okay, what if I'm ever tripping from an attack? What if somebody slipped me something and I'm tripping? I want to be able to function even though I'm tripping balls. I want to be able to do this. I want to still, you all of a sudden the door is right there. You walk to the door, all of a sudden the door is over there. I'm like, oh shit, how would I deal with that? So all of these type of things matter, and all of that stuff is, to me, training. Like I train in other realms. I, train for stuff over here. I train for, reality bleeding. I trained for reality code switching. I trained for time being sped up. Because every time, I say some people recognize that time has been sped up ever since 2019 or something like that. If you look, every time I pull the trash can, it's time for me to put it back out. Weeks go by like 2 days. Every other day I got to put the trash can back. So time is sped up. How do we deal with that? You look up. Baba passed 4 years ago. It feels like yesterday. So all of that type of stuff is you have to be stern and diligent and just be aware and try to not to lose yourself and just be who you are. Certain things and it's all you behind it. So it's all tests. It's all learning how to maneuver in the weird, because we chose to be in here doing this weird shit with mushrooms and other reality type stuff. So if you choose to be in them realms or choose to deal with it, that's what come with it. It comes with weird people and all sorts of stuff, and not saying weird in a negative way, because all of these events, you meet somebody that's really out there, but some of them is rare, but some of them really be on some, I've met some people that really be on some shit, to where it be something I say and I know, and they be like, I'm like, okay, he on the right path, even if it's beginning or medium or whatever. We, like I said, even though we all still learning a lot of shit, but I can tell when folks know some shit, even if they don't know, they know it, because that happens a lot too. People don't know what they know until it comes up. Same thing with me as a martial artist. When I was younger, I was talking to Baba and I was like, I feel like I should know more or something. He was like, no, you where you supposed to be, and you know more than what you think you know. And it's crazy too, because I do know more than what I think I know. Sometimes people ask me questions, I don't even know I know the answer until they ask me the question. Sometimes the question has to be asked, and a lot of stuff I absorbed and got taught as a baby, really does have an effect on me now, you know. So it's one of them things. And it's almost 10 o'clock.
Well, I can let you get to bed if you want to get this wrapped up. It's totally up to you. I know some Joe Rogan podcasts, they go till like 3.5 hours, so that definitely does not have to be the case here, because I know life has to keep moving. But
No, I know. I mean,
this has been. I just want to take a moment to thank you. This has been a really incredible first episode, and I that's what I want every episode to be like, is just to not know where the conversation's going to lead, and it lead to the best of places, because that's awesome.
and this is actually really good for me as well, because like I said, even though it's been 4 years, I still have to speak more. I still have to get out there and be able to speak, because one thing about Baba is he could explain the unexplainable. I have a lot of stuff that's so weird, it's hard to explain. But I feel like the more that I speak about certain things, the better I'll become at getting my point across. I have a ton of information, but it's hard for me to convey it. And you could be the smartest person in the world. If you can't convey it, it don't mean shit. So by me doing these talks and speaking more, helps me be able to, present what I'm trying to present to the world. And, we definitely got to do this again. And, after you talk to a Maywa and all of them, just let me know when you want to do it again, so we can keep this rolling, because I have to speak. It's one of them things that it's one of those skills that I need, because ever since Baba died, everybody been wanting to talk to me. And, and it's one of the things where I have to speak, because, I'm me now. I'm, in a position to where I have to speak. I got to speak all the time. And it's one of them things to be like, ah. But this was cool though. I like, that's what I'm saying. I like this instead of getting up in front of people and having to speak to a big old crowd. But
No, it's so much better when it can roll off. And I mean, that's why, like, I was trying to figure out how, if I was actually going to, prepare for this, but the more that I try to prepare, it's just I feel like I'm getting tense and rigid, and it's just like, no, what needs to come out will come out.
mhm.
And in terms of, passing you the mic and the spotlight, that's all we really want to, or wish to see. It's one thing when, someone passes and it's like the person, or their child is like, uh, feels like they have an obligation to pursue a legacy that they don't want, and that's, totally the opposite case with
Yeah.
you, because it's just like this is who you are, and it's like, as many opportunities as we can get to really start talking about things for real is what I want. And the fact that all of you are going to do this with me this month just really means a lot, and I just want to keep it going. And like, I even want us to get group ones together and have, like, sort of Jedi Council meeting type
And
talks where we're all talking, because
and
if we're
and one thing, I didn't mean to cut you off, but one thing about it is like the Tamerrian Institute is so vast on the way people think. It's like you have such a different. It's really like a council, like a Jedi council, because you really
Mhm.
see different minds. Even though there's a lot of similarities, because we're spiritual brothers, we connected. That's why we all came together. But the Mudu, the way he thinks is completely different. He always says stuff that I'm like, damn, I didn't even think of that. I didn't think, because most people don't do that to me. When he says something, I'm like, damn, that really hey, that really kind of shifts the perspective. And a Maywa was such a informational, juggernaut in the midst of what we got going on, and bred everybody. It's like, you know, to have us together is a real good thing, and I feel like we need to keep putting more stuff out and being out there, because people don't people are getting pulled to certain people in other areas who don't have what I feel like is enough time and um, enough information in what this thing is. But the right people get called to us, and to have us together is would be great too. Definitely.
Mhm. Absolutely. Well, everybody, like you said, a Maewa and Mudu are powerhouses, but they have their roles, and everybody has their role too, and that's what's crucial, because that's what makes it work.
Mm-hmm.
And I think hopefully we set up the series this month to really let everybody's voices shine on the topics that I think they can, speak about the most. And I'm really, honored to have, been here tonight for what we covered. I was taken into some wormholes myself, and it was great to just, hear more about your experience and your upbringing, and everything that's led us to this point, because it's really special. And, and my, um, desire to platform all of you guys, it's my utmost first priority and concern to place um, the space of sensitivity and just, wholesomeness around what all of this really means, and the family element of it, because that's what, um, continues to make it grow, and means the most of it to me. It's like, and I want people to hear this too. It's like, I really don't care if we get two new people at every event for the next 20 years. It's just like, every time I get together with you guys, I know that, like, life is just going to get 10 times more legendary in the next 2 months.
It,
So
it's literally like a family reunion. Every year, even if you see certain people one time a year, it's like a relief. Like, hey man, what's been going on? It's like a because it's like I said, it's a spiritual thing. We are connected beyond this realm. So it's like, all right, in 2024, we gonna meet up again in this reality, and then we gonna stay connected for a lifetime after that. So that's what these conferences, that's what these events do. They connect people who are supposed to be connected, and it's a lifelong friendship. And every conference I've ever been to is at least one connection I make with a person that literally go on through a lifetime. I'm sure, any state, any city I can go to, and I'm taken care of, just because you meet people and connect with them in a way that's like, it's going to be a lifelong friendship. I guarantee you, it's 2024 now. You're gonna look up. We both gonna have gray beards, and we're gonna be talking about this conversation about us. How look up when we got gray beards, and all of that kind of stuff. It's gonna be one of them things. Like, I guarantee you, we're gonna be in our 60s and 70s talking about the things that we did. And that's one of the most precious things life has, are the memories. I've learned that through people passing away. Your memories are extremely precious. People are extremely precious. So you value the memories you have with certain people, friends, yeah, the women even if it's a short time passed through life, your memories of these people are the most precious thing. So, since I was a child, certain conferences, you're gonna see that person, and it's always love. You know, sometimes it's sad you only see people once a year, but when you see them, it's like finally, man, what's been going on? Yeah, so it's definitely gonna be a love situation when we go out to Miami, and yeah, so definitely got it.
We're gonna do it right this year, man, because we have the time and the space, and this one's gonna be good. It's gonna give us the room to brainstorm and to plan and to make some connections, and put some work in behind the scenes this time around that will its flowers will blossom in the coming years for people. It really will. Um,
I say shoot. I say, because Tamerrian need all of it, all the help we can get. We appreciate, y'all in Miami, and it's like these events really, really bring me joy, because it's like, look what Baba sparked, you know what I'm saying? It'll never be a Miami psychedelic conference, or Oakland psychedelic conference, whatever city psychedelic conference
no,
in these places. You used to have to spend thousands of dollars and go to Wales at the prestige university of whatever. I'm just making stuff up, but you used to have to spend big bucks and go overseas to go to a psychedelic conference and learn about psychedelics and all of these type of things from people who wasn't even taking them for real. So they just wrote literature on them and all of that type of stuff. But this way, you get the real deal folks who are actually in it, doing it. um you know you come across people who are actually in these realms, actually taking these substances, so they know about it and they experience it themselves. So, you know but I say, I take my hat off to y'all for keeping it going, what I'm saying? And so this, you know a lot of it, y'all bringing us out there and all of that type of stuff, that's all well. But I'd give y'all props as well, because without y'all, we can't, flourish either, without the people who appreciate and can see, the good in what we're doing.
absolutely. Well, it's just about trying to help people understand that, yes, is a our physical locations one part of the puzzle, absolutely, but Tamarian has to exist everywhere and has to be accessible everywhere. To tap in from a community perspective, from a information storehouse perspective, and just from the grid of consciousness, I guess, that we're all putting together. And when I it was, I guess, yeah, it would have been peak pandemic probably before my freshman year, before I moved to college and everything. I hadn't yet discovered his work, but having had the psychedelic experiences that I did, and just having so much on my mind, it was those really special moments in isolation with, a few special people, where we had the vision of like, you know, there will be a time and a place and a platform that these conversations can take place, and where something larger in general will just be built out of it. And in that time, I can look back and see as much of an inspired place as I was in. I never even would have projected anything of what has taken place in the last 3 years to have taken place as quickly as it has. You know, when the podcast idea came about, I think the person I imagined myself as starting to host that podcast was, you know, another 10 years down the line version of me in some deeper professional capacity. And then, you know, having discovered his work, the greatest, you know, thing that I've taken from it is the power piece when you are able to confront anything that stands as a challenge. And it's just like, you know, of course there will always be times and spaces where there are more resources for things to uh you know, take place in their most highest form, but to wait for those things to come, you know, with no, I guess, like discernible destination, and just wasn't an option anymore. And you know, the same logic that you apply to when you have to sit down and face, you know, a bowl of mushrooms and ask yourself, can I really do this? And you know, am I going to walk out on the other side? It's just like I've tried to really take that and apply it to, you know, making everything be about the now, you know,
Mhm.
and not waiting around. Because what is the waiting around for when, you know, we are responsible for our creation, as you said? And it's just, you know, to be at this point and to realize that if this is what's taking place this quickly, then I don't even know what's going to take place, you know, next few years. So
And about to say, when it comes to podcasts and all of this type of stuff, you got to jump into it and you got to do it. About to say,
yeah.
okay, the best time to do something is now. But I'm getting called back, so definitely after you talk to everybody and stuff like that, we got to schedule another one of these because
Yep, we'll keep it going, man. Absolutely. Yeah, whether it's monthly or bi-month, however we figure out consistency is key, and we will make it happen.
definitely
100%.
definitely gonna build. I appreciate you and got to get out of here.
Yes,
So
sir. Guys, this was the first episode of the Dress Rehearsal for Death podcast. Our first guest, Ramessu Iyi, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It was an honor and a pleasure. Make sure to follow us on @DR4D podcast on Instagram. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And we will be chopping this up into a bunch of clips because there were so many pieces of gold that came out of this conversation, and people are going to be catching it all the way up to the conference. So, Ramessu, thank you for being a brother, man. Have a great night. Much love.